Thanks for your time today, guys. Want to talk a little bit about who we are at Nasuni and how we're helping organizations both with their cloud transformation, but as well as their goals to try to get more out of their data through things like generative AI. So just touching quickly on myself. I've experienced about 20 years in the IT industry. Actually started, probably much like many of you in this room and on the webinar, on the infrastructure side, starting as a systems administrator. Evolved up into management, both manager, director, and senior director roles through a variety of different businesses, both things like a B2B SaaS company, as well as a health insurance company. So wide range of experience. The last half of my career really spent working in pre-sales, helping customers try to solve their problems, right? So specifically, as we're talking about things like S3 storage, back when I was a senior director, brought in fairly early in the evolution of cloud or object storage, brought in object storage for the SaaS company in 2011. Really saw the benefit of object storage for what we were trying to do, and really started to evangelize it from there. So after leaving the corporate side and jumping over into sales, joined a couple different companies working on taking cloud storage and figuring out how to unlock it and make it valuable for actual end users. And then finally, just at the end, certified in a couple different key areas of both engineering, architecture, and AI. Whoops. Trying to balance the screens. Apologize. Okay. So that was me, but who's Nasuni, right? So not necessarily a household name, at least as of yet. But we do have a rather large footprint through many customers. So we have about 1,000 customers that currently leverage Nasuni products today. As you can see, hundreds of petabytes of storage. We'll talk a little bit about what our deployment model is, but effectively 15,000 plus edge deployments within our customer environments. So we think we have a very good underlying storage platform, but we also are very focused on the customer experience, as you can see both by our NPS as well as our Gartner Peer Insight reviews. Key thing of note, as we'll talk about in a second, we can sit on any cloud or object storage platform. Obviously, for today, we'll focus on our customers and the work that we've done with AWS. We have a wide range of features available, and our tools are all available in the relevant marketplaces. So what is Nasuni, right? Obviously, outside of a slide with a bunch of names and logos, if you think about the world of storage, unstructured file storage, really there's sort of been this divide. Initially, it was your on-prem NAS devices, right? And those were great because you get local performance. You're able to lock down things like security, and it's a common interface for users to go and interact with the data, right? Users are used to just pulling up a Finder or Explorer and seeing that data. Along comes object storage in the cloud. That object storage really provides a ton of additional value for things like scalability, durability, reliability, and global namespace of that data. However, traditionally, if you're trying to figure out where you put your unstructured data, you have to balance. Right? Do I want that on-prem performance and security, or do I want that cloud operational excellence and cost effectiveness? What Nasuni does is basically marry the two and provide a limitless, scalable structure of data, which is backed by that object storage, built-in data security. We're going to present things like SMB, NFS directly to your users, but backed by that object storage. Key thing of note, no changing for your user workflow. If you do go and deploy Nasuni on-prem or in the cloud, they're still going to connect through Finder, Explorer with those SMB, NFS protocols, but backed by the object storage behind the scenes. So to sort of peel that back, right? What we've done is actually build a global file system on top of object storage. That's going to provide, again, that limitless scalable data set. So you don't have to worry about, as we're going to talk about in a second, if you're trying to consolidate your data so you have one central namespace for your AI workloads, you don't have to worry about, hey, how do I scale up my NAS device to put another petabyte of storage in, right? You just continue to add that storage and will scale with the object storage behind it. Talk a little bit about the security, not dig too deep, but happy to provide additional details as we go or in the future. Yeah, no problem. We provide the ability to have unlimited number of snapshots of that data, right? So as files are being written to the edge devices, those are going to be written back into the AWS S3 cloud, allowing you to have point-in-time recovery, typically most customers around 5 minutes of any of those files that have changed indefinitely. As part of that, right, simple enough, because we built that file system on top of that object storage, that public cloud, you're able to do rapid recovery of that data. Right? As opposed to having to restore a bunch of files, you're just telling the Nasuni file system that this is now your point in time, and it will point that table of contents to those files on the system. Built on top of that, we also have ransomware detection, ransomware defense, so we can do both detection and mitigation real time as we detect either known ransomware patterns or anomalous behavior. We can actually lock down that user real time and then be able to have that easy point in time recovery with those snapshots. And then finally, right, we give that edge performance. So in many organizations, they're deploying these appliances, either physical or virtual, right within their data centers, and being able to provide that high-speed access just like they're used to, or even presented in the cloud for cloud-native services that need to interact. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we dig into some of the use cases. So that's who I am, who we are. But let's talk a little bit about some of our customers and what they've done with Nasuni. So I try to grab a wide range of customers. Thankfully, I've got some financial and some pharmaceutical in here, so we cover at least a couple of people in here. But so one of our customers, PennyMac, may be familiar with them. They are a mortgage company based out of California. They decided to do a consolidation of data from a bunch of different storage platforms. They wanted to get down to a single platform, and they wanted to, importantly, have better disaster recovery for either failures of regions, or, as I'm sure many of you have been tackling with, especially as we talked about, moving headquarters or moving offices to a new region, being able to have data available across the environments without having to worry about things like snapshot schedules and syncing data across. So PennyMac decided to consolidate all of their different regional offices and regional data onto the Nasuni platform. As you can see down at the bottom, about 5,000, 6,000 users, half a petabyte or so of data, and one file data platform for all their users and all that data. Moving along, Western Digital, probably as I look across the room, you probably have a Western Digital hard drive or something similar in your computer. They are a Nasuni customer as well. They actually approached it where they were looking to merge two other storage companies into their ecosystem post-acquisition. And they're trying to figure out a way to have one storage platform that they could migrate all that data into that would be scalable, reliable, durable, and being able to be accessed across multiple regions and multiple locations. Key thing with Western Digital, I always love to note, one of their primary use cases was they've got their designers and they're creating these, whatever designs for disks or memory or whatever they do outside of my scope of knowledge. But before, right, they would have to take those files, those design files, and replicate them from one office to the other. From what they told us, typically their ETA on that, their target was about 12 hours to have that data that was written in Office A available in Office B to work on. Because we provide one data platform, one namespace across all that, they went from 12 hours to 10 minutes to be able to access those same data files because it's the same namespace, the same data available across all those, again, backed by the AWS cloud storage behind the scenes. So 40 sites, 10,000 users, 2 and change petabytes, one file data platform for all of that data. Another customer of ours, the city of Denver, probably much like I think at least one of the people in the room had mentioned, they decided that they didn't want to manage floor space and data centers anymore. They wanted to really move out of that as much as possible. And IT wanted to focus on how do they deliver value to the customers, not how they run cables and replace hard drives, right? So they approached us and we showed them the ability of the Nasuni platform to have, again, that single namespace available up in the public cloud. That is then backed by those edge devices that they'll deploy into their different offices to be able to get that same namespace of data, and really just remove all of their management costs associated with storing data. And instead, they're just deploying these edge devices, these sort of stateless caching devices at their location, backed by the Nasuni storage in the back end. Again, millions of files, half a petabyte or so of data. As we've seen with the other ones, just one data platform for all of their users and all their data. Rounding out, just have a couple more use cases to talk through, at least those that are interesting. Takeda, so they are a global pharmaceutical company. As you can see on the slide, one of the largest in Asia and top 20 in the world. They had a initiative to try to consolidate their data. They were using one of the old legacy, sort of big iron type file storage platforms, and they wanted to modernize that and be able to provide fast, secure access, especially focused on data durability, reliability, recoverability, right? Because what they decided to do was put their research data on this storage, and they wanted to make sure that, much like we saw with the others, they'd be able to have that same data set across the different offices. But they also wanted to make sure that if they lost an office, if they lost some data, if they needed to do a recovery, they could do that almost instantaneously. So that's selected Nasuni for that. As you can see there, 50 or so sites globally that they're accessing this data set. Over 2 petabytes of storage and just one data platform for those offices in that region. And the last use case that I wanted to touch on just is AECOM. So AECOM, they're a AC customer firm. So they do engineering and construction. As you can imagine, if you start to think about these large engineering construction organizations, they've got all sorts of different locations where they're doing these designs and these plans, potentially even on-site locations as they're building, bridges or buildings. And they wanted to be able to, again, take that data set, which used to be in all these silos in these different offices, and make it globally available. Not just so that they could shift the workload and have, different offices working on the same workload, but also in the case of, if they're out on a site and there's a hurricane coming through, right? They wanted to be able to have that data be available for another location if they shut down that office as hurricane passes through the area. So they actually took and consolidated, as you can see here, about 9.5 petabytes of storage onto the Nasuni platform across, multiple years of using this solution, hundreds of locations, tens of thousands of users accessing this data set. And they just continue to grow from their initial deployment. As we said, it's simple enough to just continue to add storage. What we'll do is just cache that active data set, the locations, and they get a global view of all of the data that's available to them. Okay. So obviously, you guys are saying, hey, this is all cool. Nasuni sounds interesting, but we're here talking about generative AI. Why is Eric going on about Nasuni storage? And the reason why is that, we think that Nasuni is a key aspect of a company's AI strategy, right? So when we think about AI strategy, what we really think is, well, AI is driven by data. And so a good AI strategy really is a good data strategy. And what we've done is come up with what we call our fit for AI pyramid. This is a approach that we've worked with customers to try to allow them to figure out how they can unlock the data in their environment for things like generative AI or even, machine learning and things like that, right? So if we start at the base of the pyramid, well, we work with customers and say, hey, excuse me, you want to make sure you know where all of your data is. If they're a Nasuni customer already, it's great because all their data is on Nasuni, but not all customers are like that, or they're just dipping their toes, right? So we want to make sure we can understand where those data sets are, because you don't want to have multiple pools of data that you're then interacting with to try to do your generative AI, your Bedrock and Claude from a RAG perspective, or prompt augmentation. Right? So first, it's assess that data. Where is all of your unstructured data? Again, because we want to make this a one source of truth, one point of access for this data, then the next step of your data strategy for AI is to consolidate those silos to have one single namespace. Again, Nasuni works great for that because we have that unlimited scale of the data, because we are able to deploy on, things like from an AWS perspective, Glacier instant retrieval to keep that cost as effective as possible. So find your data, consolidate your data, and then you need to secure it, right? So if all of your data is in one location, you want to make sure that's not a easy target for malicious users or even, bad actors within your organization. So what we want to do is make sure that you've got the best protection available with Nasuni, right? That is through our built-in things like NTFS permissions from an SMB perspective, or as we talked about, that point-in-time recovery, the ransomware protection for that data. Now, as we know, as you may learn as we go through the slides, one of the issues that you run into with generative AI is garbage in, garbage out, or hallucination, right? So how do you make sure that you have the right data in there? How do you curate it to make sure that you're feeding good data into your engine so it's producing valuable results? We've got tools associated with that. Things like a tool we call Nasuni IQ can give you details of your platform to figure out, where's your active data, what has been touched in a while. And overall, right, we say that's, Nasuni is providing a good data strategy for you to feed data into your AWS Bedrock, as we'll talk about in a bit, or your other AI or ML tools. Excuse me. Right, and so this slide basically just covers, what I talked about already, right? The idea is that you're going to take all of your data, make that available in Nasuni, and then you're able to feed it into whatever cloud services you want in order to untap that data, whether that be Bedrock or Amazon Q, whether that is feeding it into things like SageMaker Recognition, OpenSearch, or even data pipelines, right? Nasuni can provide that one single pane of glass, that one source of truth of that data set. So just as an example, right? So here is just high level idea of, how customer could potentially access Nasuni. At its core, right, we're going to have that single global namespace of your Nasuni file system, which is in your S3 buckets in your environment. We'll then take that file system that we've layered on S3 and present that out to various locations. Right. So as we look down the bottom, that could be a on-prem location, virtual appliance or hardware appliance you've deployed within your data centers, where you've got shares like your admin share, your user, and your project share. We can deploy in Outpost as an example, right? Maybe in your Outpost location, we don't need the admin share and we don't need the project share, but we have a separate department share, right? So we can slice and dice your data set from that perspective as well. You can deploy in a local zone, as we see here. You got your same project share and your user share, or even up into your AWS regions to be able to access those cloud native services as well. So as we look, right, your project share, you can decide which location you want that. Maybe it's in the projects, you want to be able to have, quick search of that data, simple enough to tap that into things like OpenSearch up in AWS or on-prem search tools if you so desire for those on-prem. That data written there would be available through either native tools that you're writing that can talk S3, because we can support S3 as an endpoint for the Nasuni file system, that same SMB data. Or again, up in public cloud, you can have in that region be able to talk and feed that data into something like knowledge base or a vector database to create a RAG of that data. So want to touch just real quick. We talked about it at a high level. Want to show one thing that we're doing with a customer today, working on doing proposal generation. Right, so we have a customer that says, "Hey, we write a lot of proposals for prospects, right? Think of it like a engineering company. Maybe they're doing a lot of designs of bridges, and they say, "Hey, we basically are writing the same proposal over and over again, maybe tweaking it a little. It'd be great if we could have generative AI be able to create at least the baseline of this proposal that we can then use." So in this scenario, right, the customer on-prem, they've got their proposals folder down at the bottom. Project managers are coming in via SMB. They're accessing those proposals, maybe modifying them, and importantly, once they've have a proposal that is flagged as good, successful, right, they can move it to a specific location within that share or flag it in another way that says that this is a good proposal we want to use to train or to use as augmented generation of the data for our proposal generation system. That same data set, making it available through an edge appliance they're deploying up in the public cloud. So it's all right next to the Bedrock and Claude toolset. And they're working on both the web interface and API integration to provide a very simple interface where, as you can see on the top, a user can come in and say, "Hey, can you write me a proposal about creating a new bridge over a large river, make it similar to customer XYZ," right? And what'll happen is then it ties into Bedrock and Claude through the, again, as we talked about, those existing proposals that were marked as good. able to generate that result. That is then presented back to the user. They can take that data, write it back off into their local edge appliance, make modifications, make changes, and go through that same flow and basically continue to nurture that cycle. So I am just about out of time. Just want to wrap up and see if there are any additional questions as we went. But again, what we think is Nasuni as you start your AI journey, both from the framework that we put together of your fit for AI strategy, but as well just a data pool that is highly durable, highly reliable, cost effective, giving you performance at scale for users on-prem, available in the public cloud for your cloud native services, single namespace across all that. We really think Nasuni is one of the best solutions that you can provide for your data set for your cloud journey, AI journey. Any questions in chat or?
Excellent. We can all give them a round of applause in person here. I'm going to check that. Let me check the chat here. I'm not sure we do, but does anyone have questions in the room?
What does Nasuni provide versus other options in the market? What are the advantages over other options?
Yeah.
Why don't you summarize that for the people who might have been to hear the question directly?
Yeah, absolutely. So the question is, how do we compare with some of the other providers in the space? Obviously, as I went through, a couple of the providers were used by name as we talked about the who migrated off. But really, what you'll see is, in Nasuni, we were built cloud native to begin with, right? Our file system was built on top of object storage, cloud storage, right from the get-go. What you see is other storage providers are trying to take their legacy on-prem type environment and try to figure out how they sort of lift and shift it and drop it into a cloud solution, right? So some of our competitors, if you're using their cloud storage, right, again, it's basically just their same on-prem storage device deployed into an EC2 instance in the cloud. Again, we built that natively from the ground up within object storage as the back end. So a lot of those limits that you'll see if you try to go with a competitor solution, where you may have to end up deploying multiple different of those virtual appliances in the cloud to get the right data footprint you need, right? We don't have those scaling limits. We don't have the snapshot limits. We don't have those same limits. Really, as mentioned, we've got customers that have been with us for almost 10 years, having every 5-minute snapshots. They're able to restore back from 5 years ago to an exact point in time without having to worry about, where do I restore that from tape? How do I, get that back? It's all instantly available, very simply. Yeah.
And you made the choice to integrate closely with AWS as opposed to being cloud native?
Yeah, so the question was, do we made the choice to do AWS specifically as opposed to just being cloud native? Obviously, here sitting in the AWS facilities, I was focusing on our partnership with AWS, which we do have a lot of customers, and it's been a very successful relationship. But we do have customers using other clouds as well, and so we try to be a little, Switzerland, as it were. Not pick a side there. So we do work with others, but really it's up to the customer which cloud they feel is the best for their use case in their environment.